curriculum, just so you know, our 8 weeks together. Today will be focused on mindfulness and emotions. Next week, our week 2, will be focused on our capacity to hold one and more than one emotion in awareness at a time, which is a huge component of well-being. And that's one of the things that I think makes this curriculum special. Why I've made it actually is this idea of being able to hold more than one aspect of reality in awareness simultaneously or flickering back and forth. And then our 3rd week will be starting to notice how nature takes care of us, the ways that we do have well-being. We have a negativity bias that has us continually looping on what's wrong and starting to open up to what's right. Our 4th week, we'll do mindfulness training. Our 5th week, we'll start to talk about how to deal with difficult thoughts. Anyone in here ever have difficult or sticky thoughts? Yes, right? Like this can be the bane of the human existence. And so we'll talk about specific strategies that are most effective in helping us to relate to the thoughts that oftentimes actually drive our emotions. And we'll also touch on in week 5 the idea that beneath thoughts, beneath feelings, there's needs. And these universal needs, values. And that'll kind of spring us into week 6, and we'll talk about self-compassion training, which a lot of you are familiar with, and yet we'll kind of wade into those waters again, because that too was a huge part of my story of well-being, was learning to really embrace my messy self. Because in the end, you know, I'm in my 40s now, you know, like 60 years from now when I'm 102, I'm still going to be messy. And if I can't embrace that reality, I'm never going to have well-being. And then week 7, we'll talk about positive neuroplasticity training, which is a big fancy word for growing the good. And again, in growing the good, not in isolation or instead of what's challenging, but really in connection with. And so that's part of what makes this curriculum special, is that it's not about avoiding the bad and growing the good. It's about learning how to skillfully embrace the bad, the tricky, the challenging, and open to the good, both. And there's the acronym AND we'll talk about more later on. And then our last week together, we'll talk a bit about pieces from the previous weeks. We'll talk a little bit about resentment and how to deal skillfully with that. And then it'll be kind of a review and a wrap up of all of our 8 weeks together.